Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be here with all of you who are so sincerely studying Srimad Bhagavatam every day. It's personally, it's a encouragement for me to continue studying as well, seeing you all studying. So I was asked by Dharmendra Prabhu to speak on chapter 14 of 6th canto of Bhagavatam, and I believe we have about an hour. Is that what
That's
we
right,
have?
Prabhu. Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
So I'm gonna try and keep it within an hour. But time and I don't really go along very well, so please forgive me in advance if I'm not able to finish the session. It all depends on how it goes. I've had very little time to prepare, so I'm going to refer to my slides from 2001 when I did the 6th canto overview session. I've added a few verses, and we will go straight into the topic as we've lost the first 10 minutes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the pivotal canto, because 6th canto is the one which helps you enter from the path of sadhana to the path of raganuga. So if you know, bhakti is two types, sadhana and raganuga. And what defines raganuga bhakti and what separates raganuga bhakti from sadhana bhakti is that raganuga bhakti is spontaneous and is fully dependent on the grace of the Lord. The grace of the Lord is in Sanskrit known as poshanam. And the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is in the 2nd canto. It is mentioned in the 4th verse that poshanam, which is the topic of the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, poshanam tad anugraha. Poshana means causeless mercy of the Lord. These words are very beautiful, causeless mercy. Because if mercy had a cause, it would not really be a mercy. So rather than saying causeless mercy, we could also say grace. So who are the individuals that attract the grace of the Lord? And in that topic, we have the 19 chapters of the 6th canto divided in a certain, 3 different parts. Now, since I'm not teaching you the 6th canto, I'm only focusing on the 14th chapter. Sufficient to say that 14th chapter focuses on consciousness of a person, who is how the consciousness develops, first of all, becomes purified. And after it's purified, how the person develops deep attachment to the Lord. And that is embodied by the example of Citraketu Maharaj. So you've already heard the pastime of Vritrasura. And Vritrasura was a demon, son of Twashta. There's a confusion in the mind of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukadeva Goswami, Shri Parikshit Vacha, he's asking, Rajastama Swabhavasya Brahman Vritrasya Papamanaha. Vritra, he was Papamanaha. Papamanaha means he is sinful. He is causing trouble to so many people. Vritra literally means he who covers. This demon, he grew so huge that he covered the whole sky. So there was no sunlight. He grew so big that he covered the whole universe. None of the planets, not only Earth, none of the planets could get any sunlight. So this is why he was called as Vritra, one who covered everything. Such a papmanaha means he's full of sinful afflictions. And yet, the surprise is, Rajaha Tamaha, he has passion and ignorance. Swabhavasya, his nature is of passion and ignorance. O Brahman, O Shukdev, how come this sinful Vritrasur, Narayane Bhagavati, in Bhagavan Narayan, Katham Asit Dridamati, Katham Asit, how did he attain Dridamati, firm consciousness in Narayan? It's a surprise that somebody with his kind of background could become conscious of Narayan at all times. Because Vritrasur is given as an example of one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, even greater than Indra. And yet he is a demon. This is the confusion that Parikshit has. He expands on his confusion. He says, Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam, the demigods, they have Shuddha Sattva. They are in the mode of goodness and above the mode of goodness, like Brahma, for example. Rishinam Chamalatmanam. And the rishis, the great sages, their consciousness is amala. Amala. Mala means something that is dirty. In fact, the prefix in Latin, mal, we say malnutrition, which means bad nutrition, or in simple words, one who lacks nutrition. We say malady. Malady means a disease, something which is bad. So mala means bad or something which is some sort of a filth. And amala is negation, one who is pure, no filth. Rishinam cha amalatmanam, whose atma, whose mind, heart has no filth. Such rishis, devatas who are in the mode of goodness, for them, bhaktir mukunda charane na prayena upajayate. Prayena, generally speaking, na upajayate. Na upajayate does not attain. Generally speaking, even the demigods and the rishis who are pure in their consciousness do not get bhakti at the lotus feet of Mukunda, at the lotus feet of Krishna. This bhakti, this love of the Lord is such a rare thing. People don't attain it so easily. So how this Vritrasur, who is a demon in the mode of Rajogun and Tamagun, how did he become such a great devotee? He expands this question, Parikshit, by saying, in fact, not only the rishis, but amongst the rishis, there are some who are truly liberated. Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana. Amongst those who are liberated rishis, they are generally in Brahman consciousness, the impersonalist view of God. Sudurlabha, Sudurlabha, extremely rare. Prashantatma, extremely rare are those who are fully self-satisfied. Kotishu, Kotishu means amongst 10 million or more. Api Mahamune, even amongst tens of millions of those sages who are pure-hearted. find someone who is Narayana Parayana, who is always dedicated to Narayan, who's fully in Krishna consciousness, is such a rare thing. So how did this Vritrasur become such a great devotee? Citraketu Maharaj. So Shukdev Goswami explains, let me tell you, Parikshit, the pastime of Citraketu Maharaj. Citraketu was a king of Shurasen Rajya. Shurasen kingdom actually used to be around central India, north central India, and the capital of Shurasen kingdom is Mathura. This king of Shurasena, named Citraketu, he ruled over the earth. He only had one problem. He had no children, no prince. So he married 10 million wives in the hope of having a child. However, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in the purport, in his commentary, he writes, each and every one of those 10 million queens were barren. Barren means they could not bear a child. So he married them not for enjoyment, but to get some result. He wanted one child, at least, who would continue his legacy. But there was no result. The first wife, her name was Kritadyuti. And because of having no children, he was anxious and without any happiness. You see, when we have desires, if you put on a scale all the things that we can be grateful for, all the things that we possess, all the things that perhaps others do not possess, and all the things that we can be happy with. And on the other side, we put, on the other side of the scale, we put one burning desire. Can you tell me which way the scale will tip? Will it go down this way or that way? Generally, for one who is not grateful, for one who is attached and unable to relinquish one's possessions, one who does not know the value of life, the scale will tip on the left side. The desires of what we don't possess, the guilt and the regret of what we could have possessed, weighs on us so heavily that everything that we should be joyful for is of little meaning. And that's what happened with Citraketu. He was anxious, without any happiness. At that moment, one great sage, who is the son of Brahma, this sage is born from Lord Brahma himself. He appeared on the scene. His name was Angira Muni. Immediately, as soon as Angira appeared, Citraketu Maharaj rose from his seat, welcomed Angira Muni, asked him for a place to sit, greeted him with kind words, and offered him general etiquette of welcoming a guest. Having greeted well, Angira was happy. Now, I'm just showing you here, this is Shurasena kingdom. But at the time of Citraketu Maharaj, he was ruling all over the world from this place. And the center of Shurasena kingdom is Mathura. In fact, there was a Greek traveler by the name of Megasthenes, who refers to the kingdom of Saurasenoi and the capital of Mathura. Of course, he's Greekized, or he's made it, the words into a little bit of a Greek spelling, but we can see it's Surasena and Mathura. So even he mentions it. And he came to India in 300 BC. So the Bhagavatam mentioning Surasena, some scholars say that Bhagavatam must be written in 300 BC because they take Megasthenes as the benchmark for when Bhagavatam would have been written. But that's a ridiculous proposal for so many reasons. One of the biggest reason is, suppose somebody visits from some remote tribe in Africa. They visit London in 2025 and they write about it. I visited London in 2025. And then after 100 years, people think, oh, London existed since 2025. That's ridiculous. You can't benchmark the time of the time based on the visit of or the counts of some individual. But anyway, this is what the Indologists do. So they think the Bhagavatam, which refers to Surasena, must be at least 300 BC old. Anyway, this is just a side point. But this was the Surasena kingdom, right? So this kingdom here, this is where Citraketu was. Now, Citraketu Maharaj, he saw Angira. Angira saw Citraketu. Angira asked Citraketu a few questions. Apite namayam swasti. First question. Apite, are you anamaya? Anamaya. Sanskrit is a beautiful language. Can you tell me what is the sound that comes of your mouth when you are in pain? What's the sound that comes out? Ah, right? Generally. So maya means full of. So disease in Sanskrit, the word for disease in Sanskrit is amaya. Amaya means one who has disease. It's called as he has got amaya. He's full of pain. Amaya means pain. So the first question Angira is asking is, apite anamayam swasti. Are you anamaya, without disease? Are you healthy? How is your health? It's the first question. So, nowadays people ask this question. How are you? Are you good? Are you healthy? Well, this is such an ancient question. We find it in Bhagavatam also. The Rishi is asking this question to Citraketu. Are you healthy? Then he says, Prakritinam tathatmanah yatha prakritibhir guptah puman raja cha saptabhihi. There are 7 things. There are, just like Prakriti, this creation has 7 layers. 7 layers. We are not going to go into that because for that you have to read 2nd canto, 3rd canto, and 5th canto, which is not the subject of today. So the universe has 7 coverings. Similarly, a king should have 7 layers around him, which he should have full control of, and he should be respected by. So what are those 7? So he says, the 7 are, actually, if you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The numbering is wrong there. What are the 7 things? Swamyamathyau janapada Durga Dravina Sanchaya Dando Mitram Chatasyaita Sapta Prakrittayo Mata. Just see, Bhagavatam is not even a work of polity, as in politics and governance. And yet, Bhagavatam has everything. Srila Prabhupada said once, if you study Srimad Bhagavatam, you become a master of all fields of knowledge. Now, somebody might say, well, that's a exaggeration, isn't it? It's not. It depends on who you learn from and how you learn it. Bhagavatam's got everything. Yeah, Angira Muni is saying for a governor, for a king, for a government in modern context, 7 things count as good leadership and good governance. The king must have Swami, spiritual guide, Amatya, advisory. They should have good advisors. The king, the prime minister, they should have good advisors. Janapada. Janapada means people who are giving their taxes. They should be people who give their tax, their dues, so that the king's treasury is filled, so that the king can protect and king can perform dharma. Durga means maintenance. The king has to maintain the praja, protect, maintenance and protection. Dravina sanchayaha, treasury is very important. Danda means punishment. Law and order is very important. Mitram, and the country, the nation must have good allies, friends. Chatasyaita sapta prakritayo matah. So Angira Muni is saying, just like the universe is covered with 7 layers, similarly a king should be well covered with these 7. And then the king or the kingdom or the nation or the country is said to be in good hands, in good shape. So he's asking, are you sufficiently covered by these 7? Then, are you in control of these 10? The king should be in control of the 10. So he's saying, Api Dara Prajamatya. Are you in control of Dara? Means the queens. There are lots of stories where the queen or the king or the nephew or the niece, they actually abscond and join the enemy. Or the queen or the nephew or the niece, they poison the king. So he's saying queens, praja, the general population, amatya, the advisors, are they in control of you? You are not in control of them. Bhrityah, the servants who serve you. Shrenyah, the shrenis are the businessmen in your kingdom. You're not driven by them. They are to be driven by you. If you see the modern government structure, it's all the businesses driving politics. In fact, in politics, we find people who in business have now assumed roles in politics. Mantrinaha. Mantrinaha means ministers. Ministers who are non-corrupt, who want to do their bit for the genuine welfare of the people. Pauraha, the tax collectors. Janapada. Janapada are tax collectors. Pauraha are governors. Bhupa. Bhupa are small counties or small areas, small countries, which have like councils, what we have as councils. Atmaja and your sons. Vashavartinaha. Are they under your control? Just see in 2 verses, this verse and the previous verse, Angira Muni has laid out what good governance and politics is. Many years ago, somebody asked me to give a short talk, 20 minutes, on politics and governance in the Shastra and how we could apply that in maintaining our temples and our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Here it is in 2 verses in Bhagavatam. Anyway, so here Angira Muni is asking these questions to Citraketu Maharaj. Angira senses some kind of anxiety. Citraketu's face is very pale. He is not really opening his mouth. He's looking down. He's sitting at the feet of Angira with his head stooped, his face paled. Angira says, "What's the matter?" Citraketu replies. He says, "You know my mind, and yet you ask me. I'll tell you nonetheless, since you've asked. He says, Lokapalairapi prarthya, even the demigods of the 8 directions. So these are these are 8 directions: north, south, east, west, and in between. Even the lords of the 8 directions, each of these directions have a lord. So for example, south there is Kubera. North there is Kubera. South there is Yama. I'm just giving example. Northeast there is Lord Shiva, Ishana. Southeast there is Agni. Like that, all the directions have demigod. All these demigods, even they were praying for a kingdom like Chitraketu's. They were praying. So Citraketu says, Lokapalairapi prarthya. Even they are doing prarthana. Even they are worshipping. They are praying that we wish we have a kingdom like Citraketu. Samrajya. Samrajya means the rule, the span of control of Citraketu. Aishwarya. Aishwarya means the opulence of Citraketu. Sampadaha. Sampadaha means the wealth of Citraketu. Even the Lokpalas wanted this kind of a, span of control and opulence and wealth. But Citraketu says, however, I have all this. However, and this is big, however. Na nandayanti aprajam mam. I am not na nandayanti. Not happy. Why? Aprajam. I don't have praja. I don't have any children. And then he gives example. Kshut. Kshut means hungry. Trit. Trit means thirsty. Kaman ivapare. One who is hungry and thirsty. Like these children in Ethiopia. It's so sorry to see how in the world there are places where even for getting a glass of water is not possible. By the way, these children that you see might look like 3-year-old or maybe even 2-year-olds. Each of this child is an average 12-year-old. So they are just wanting to get some drink, some food. This was a situation that Citraketu counted himself in. He said, I'm like these children or these individuals who are extremely hungry and extremely thirsty, malnutritioned. They cannot be satisfied by anything else but food and water. If you give these children, just let me give you the best of the mobile phones, or let me get you a Tesla, or let me get you a best of the best house. I said, no, we just want to have some water, just something to eat. So he says, this is my situation. All I want is a child. I have everything. In fact, I have so much that others can only imagine to have what I have. This is what unfulfilled desire does. It leaves a dent in our hearts. We live with a hole in our hearts. The hole which remains until the so-called desire is fulfilled, only to then realize that it was actually A, not wise to expect it to be fulfilled, and B, it actually didn't give us the happiness that we thought it would give us. And you'll see. So he then reasons, Citraketu, why do I need a child? Tatapahi Mahabhaga. Please understand, please protect, O Mahabhaga, Oh, great personality. You see, devotees are very powerful. A devotee can change one's good fortune. Srila Prabhupada was approached by um, some of the devotees, some of his disciples, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, we are really, really amazed. Until very recently, 1965, we had nothing. We just had a rented storefront and in New York and 26 Second Avenue. And it was the matchless gift store was, we were just struggling to make our ends meet. And fast forward 3 years, and we are opening temples worldwide. And we've now opened a temple in London, and we have a temple in San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and Boston, and New York. There's one in Montreal coming up. We've got a farm community coming up. We are having temples all over the world very soon. How are we able to do it as your disciples? We are just unqualified. I mean, some of his disciples were like, the youngest of his disciple was 12-year-old. Some of his disciples were, even those who were going around the world, were about latest in their mid-20s. Only a handful were approaching 30-year-old. Most of them are 21, 22, 25, 18, 16. They were amazed. We are dropouts. We have no qualification. We haven't even been trained. How are we qualified to do this? Srila Prabhupada looked in a very meditative manner with a lot of compassion, looked at them and said, you do not have any qualification. I have made you qualified. Just like us. What is our qualification? To read Srimad Bhagavatam, to understand or even attempt or even try to understand. As Srila Prabhupada would always say, try to understand. If you just try to find out, how many times he used these words, 3 words, try to understand, so many times in conversations, in meetings, in lectures, in morning walks, try to understand. But what is it that's even allowing us to try to understand? It is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. It's his desire to want us to understand, to want us to enter into Bhagavatam. That's allowing us to enter into Bhagavatam. This is the glory of a Mahabhaga. Maha means great. Bhaga means fortunate. Oh, greatly fortunate one. Tatapahi Mahabhaga. Oh, greatly fortunate one. You can change all of this. Citraketu Maharaj is saying, you can transform my life. The only difference is, if you go to a billionaire and the billionaire says, well, ask anything, and I shall give. And then we say, well, I always wished I had a nice Mercedes-Benz Model A series, whatever. And that's what you ask. It's a waste. We need to know what to ask. Krishna and Krishna's devotees, the only thing that we should ask them, the only thing that's worth asking, please give me the blessing that I may develop attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. Here, Citraketu Maharaj is not asking that. He's saying, please fill the hole in my heart. Tatapahi Mahabhaga. Pahi, protect me. Purvai saha gatam tama. Protect me because I will go to hell along with tamaha, hell, gatam, I will go, purvai saha, along with my ancestors, I shall go to hell. Yathatare madusparam prajaya tad videhina. Videhi, please make it happen. Otherwise, make what happen? Make it happen. Get me a child. Somehow, give me a blessing that I have a child. Praja. Because if we have a son and the son performs dharma, he redeems the father. It's not very difficult to understand. It's not very difficult to understand. If the father was in debt of, let's say, 100,000 pounds, and the father transferred over everything to his son, the son can redeem the father of that debt by working towards it and fulfilling the debt, filling the debt. So it's possible. Similarly, it is said in the Shastra, whatever a person lacks, their son, by performing dharma, can fill the gap. We saw that in the case of many examples. Dhruv Maharaj, for example, when he was being taken to Vaikuntha, or Dhruvaloka rather, he said, well, my mother Suniti has been very close to me. Can I please ask you, dear Vishnudutas, if she has received her share, if she is going to also be taken with me? And then the Vishnuduta said, well, worry not. She's already on her way. You see that plane there, which is going ahead of you? Already flown off, already taken off? Your mom's in that plane. She's already gone ahead, gone before. Same we find in Prahlad Maharaj. When Nrsimhadev is pleased, Prahlad Maharaj says, my dear Lord, my father was a foolish man. He didn't really realize who you are. But you are kind. You are the Supreme Lord. You are the most merciful. Please redeem him of his sinful activities and sinful reactions. And Nrsimhadev says, well, what to speak of delivering your father, your 14 generations have been already delivered. So we see that a son is capable of delivering the father and the mother. So here Citraketu Maharaj is saying, if I don't have the son, who will deliver me? And I will perpetually, perhaps, remain in hell. So you can see here, this is a son of someone. He's doing the Pindadana for the release. Now, of course, as devotees, we might, and I don't want to dwell on this, we might say, well, what if somebody only has daughters? It's a lack of understanding of individuals, and they think that if you have daughters, that's a problem. It's not, because in fact, the scriptures say it very clearly. The daughters' husbands, or the daughters' sons, or any of the relatives. So if you had no children, then your brother or your sister's sons, or your brother's sons, or if you had no brother, no sister, no children, your friend whom you consider to be like a brother, their sons. Oh, I don't even have a friend who has a son. Anyone you consider like a son. I don't even consider anyone like a son. Anyone that you depute to do this, I can't depute it to anyone. Scriptures also say, while you are living, you can do your own tarpan. You see, if you go to Jagannath Puri, you find on the steps of Jagannath Puri temple, they're doing Swatarpan, Swatma Tarpan. So they are doing tarpan of themselves by themselves because they don't know after they are gone who will do the tarpan. So like that, there are some processes. We will be digressing if we go into all that. But here the idea is very clear. Citraketu Maharaj is saying, who will redeem me after I die? Maybe I'll rot in hell for a long time. Yatha tarema dushparam. Who will help me cross over the most difficult place to cross? Why is it the most difficult place to cross? You see, this is hell represented in a classical painting. You can see different kinds of hellish punishments. Yeah, these are all different punishments. These are all different punishments are there. The crows eating, so many different kinds of punishments are there. Anyway, here is Yamraj. And here is Chitragupta. He's reading the accounts of the people. And here are the Yamadutas, two of them bringing the soul in front of Yamaraj. Here is the entry from the southern gate. This is south. If you do north, south, east, west, from the southern gate. And you can see, to get into the city of Yamaraj, everyone's crossing this river, which is called as Vaitarani. Vaitarani. Literally, extremely painful and difficult to cross. Why is it extremely painful and difficult to cross? And you can see the Yamadutas with their staffs, with their clubs, are beating this person and telling him, quick, quick, keep swimming towards the gate. And they're frantically trying to swim, and they're being beaten up. What is exactly happening there? This Vaitarani river has small insects which slice the body and suck the blood. It's nothing like a leech or a bedbug or a mosquito. Those are nothing. These are like, each insect has over 1 billion teeth, 1 billion teeth, and they slice into the flesh. Now, the thing is, once a person is dead, they leave their physical body here to either cremate or to bury or to be eaten by vultures. If you're a Buddhist or a Parsi, then they leave the body to nature for decomposing, and generally the vultures and the crows and the foxes and other animals eat the dead bodies, in whichever way your physical body is gone. So the subtle body, what is a subtle body? One might think, well, what do you mean by subtle body? I have no experience of it. Well, you do have experience of it. Your mind is subtle body. When you tell someone, I'm not feeling too great, is it your mind or your body? Could be both, but many times it's our minds. So what is mind? It's a subtle body. The entire body, which is physically packaged the way we see it, within is a subtle body. Hands, legs, eyes, mouth, nose, all of it, the full thing. And because the punishments that are meted out here in Yamalok are with subtle, the rods, whatever means of punishment there are, they're all very subtle. The instruments with which you're punished are very subtle. So they only impact your subtle body. And so you could actually chop off a subtle body's hand and feel the pain of the hand being chopped off. However, the hand actually is not being chopped at all. And so you could be subjected to repeated punishment of the same order, feeling the same degree of pain in a repetitive cycle, without actually losing the limb. Now, if you meet anyone who's lost a limb, and I had a friend, a devotee, who's lost his left arm, and I mean, we were talking some general stuff, and at one point he mentioned, I really know that subtle body exists. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, we all know mind exists, but to say that the hands exist in a subtle body and the legs, and it might be a little bit difficult to conceive. He said, no, it's very simple. For somebody like me who has amputated his left arm, he's an amputee, so he doesn't have the left arm. He says, sometimes, Kartick Chandra Prabhu, I have an irresistible itch in my left hand. And I was like, sorry, Prabhu, you're saying left hand? The hand that doesn't exist? He said, yes. And I don't know what to do with it. I mean, it's not there, but I can sense the itching. And science kind of, explains the effect by giving it a name tag. Like, for example, even the concept of gravity. It's only a phenomena which is observed, which has been given a name tag. It's not something that is scientifically it's not a something that science has manufactured or understood in reality. It's only a name given to an effect, gravity. So he said science has actually given a name to this called phantom limbs. Phantom limbs or ghost limbs. So people who are amputees, they can tell you that subtle bodies does exist. So anyway, when you are crossing over, these little insects with 1 billion teeth, they bite you, rip off your skin constantly, and not one, millions of them stick to your skin and start biting you. And with every bite of every tooth, 1 billion per insect, and millions of them stuck to your skin, including your nose and your eyes and eyeballs and all parts of your body. What are they doing? With every tooth, you are reminded of every wrong action that you performed in your earthly existence. Why do you need to be reminded of all that? Because very soon, once you enter inside the gate, you will be in front of Citraketu, who holds the whole account. And they've got no time. As you can see, they're so busy. It's the busiest department in the entire universe. There's no holidays there. They're all overworked and underpaid. So Citraketu has got an account of every action, and he's actually already decided what kind of hell and what kind of punishment will be met to you. And you'd have some time to present your case and to agree or disagree. And there are no lies, because the witnesses of Citraketu are, and it's nice to know who these witnesses are, the witnesses who will witness against this jiva. They are the sun, the moon, they are the directions. Unless somebody's going to be able to hide away from the directions. I mean, how do you hide away from space? Everything we perform is in space, right? So there are different devatas as well who are all witnesses. So there's no scope of faking it. And you're already reminded when you cross over about all of those episodes. Every single act, good, bad, and ugly, is reminded of until you face Yamaraj there. And there's an exception. For crossing over, if you want to be peacefully reminded, then those who have performed good acts, especially that of donating a cow, feeding a cow, and there's a whole list of things. Anyway, those who have done the pious acts, you can see this man here. He's holding the tail of a cow. Let me show you some of the details here. You can see some of them are with holding the tail of the cow while crossing, whereas others are just being, forced to swim. These are all swimming. So the ones who are holding the tail of the cow are the ones who are pious. They do not get attacked by these insects. They are still reminded when they hold the cow. They're still reminded because these insects do not approach the cow. They do not approach anywhere close. And if the descendants, if the sons of the person perform tarpan and other vidhi, then they also redeem. All these things are okay because for devotees, we got to go beyond this. You can see some of the, and I'll tell you, for devotees, it's a different story. But he's insistent. I want a son. When he's asking for a son, Angira, who is a great sage, who's extremely compassionate, he says, Athaha Nrupatim Rajan Bhaviteikas Tavatmajaha. Bhavita, you shall have, future tense. Bhaviteikas Tava Atmajaha, your son, you shall have a son. Tava, your Atmajaha, born of you, you will have a son. Harsha Shoka Pradastubhyam, he will give you Harsha and Shoka. Harsha means happiness. Shoka means distress. He'll give you both happiness and distress. And this is generally the case for any desire that you have fulfilled. You've got a big house. Oh, it's so hard to maintain. Some corners are never cleaned. And a house in which corners are never clean, Lakshmi doesn't reside there. So corners have to be free and they have to be clean. This is a standard, understanding in the Shastra. So, big houses, big problems, big bank balance, big problems. People are always after your money. Even your friends and family, you can't tell if they're really, really, truly concerned about you and connected with you, or are they connected just with your fame, name, money? So Harsha Shoka, always happiness, distress will come. So he says, Angira says, you shall have a son. Harsha Shoka Pradas Tubhyam. He will give you Harsha and Shoka. Iti Brahma Suto Yayau. Brahma Sutta, the son of Brahma, Angira is the son of Brahma. Yayau, he left. He said, okay, I bless you. But what did he do? He had performed a yagya for Tvashta. Now, here's something you got to remember. If you were focused on the previous chapters, you know that Tvashta is the one whose son, whose name was Trishiras, or Vishwarupa, another name. In Brahmanda Puran, his name was Trishiras, one who has 3 heads. In Bhagavad Puran, his name is Vishwarupa. This Vishwarupa, his head was chopped off by Indra. As a result of which, Tvashta, the father, he does a yagya in which he produces Vritrasur. And Vritrasur is none other than Citraketu Maharaj. That you will see in the next chapter, actually the next to next chapter, how he becomes Vritrasur. But the connection is here, that the yagya that was performed that gave Citraketu Maharaj a son named Harshashoka was a yagya to Tvashta. So Tvashta actually was the cause of whatever temporary pleasure Citraketu Maharaj received. And it was Tvashta's son that he became as Vritrasura. I don't know if you can see the connection. So here it's also interesting that Brahma Suto Yayau. the son of Brahma, Angira, he just said, okay, I've done this yajna. Feed this kheer, which was offered in the yajna, to your most important and first wife, most important and first, which is Kritadyuti. Feed this kheer to her, this sweet rice to her, and she shall conceive. And he just said he will give you happiness and distress, and he left. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jeev Goswami, in their commentary, they write, when Angira said that he will give you happiness and distress, Citraketu Maharaj was thinking, well, what he actually meant was maybe this boy, this prince, will grow up to have a bigger kingdom than mine. Maybe he will be so spoiled that he will demand so many things from me that will give me some distress. But the fact that he'll be my only son, my prince, the apple of my eye, I will really, really make sure that he becomes the best of kings, best of emperors. That will give me happiness. That's what he thought. Little did he know that his son would be actually not even crossing the age of 3 years. So then Chanakya Pandit has a very nice verse. But before I go there, I'm just conscious that I have not. It's difficult for me to cover this whole chapter in a session, and it's already 9:04. I think I'll stop here. Maybe
we can
apologies,
continue.
someone else will
We can continue, Prabhu.
next week. Sorry?
We can continue, Prabhu, if you've got the time.
I do, but I don't want to. Yeah, okay. So can you, Dharmendra Prabhu, just nudge me and tell me to stop? I'll stop, yeah?
We'll be happy, Prabhu. I think
Yeah.
people are very keen to hear from you. So thank you.
Okay. I'll try and be quick, but when I say that, I don't really mean it. So yeah. I can just do how I think it's the right speed. So Chanakya Pandit says, for example, very nice, extremely pointed. He says, Ko arthaha. What is the meaning? Putrena jatena. What is the meaning of having a son? Yo na vidvan na dharmikaha. If the son is not learned in Shastra, dharmika is not following the scriptures and following dharma specifically, what's the use of that son? He gives a fantastic analogy. He says, what's the use of having eyes if the person is squint, which means the eyes are there, the eye sockets are there, the eyeball is there, but cannot see anything. What's the use of such eyeballs and such eyes? Kanena chakshusha kimva chakshu pideva kevalam. In fact, he goes one step further. He says, such eyes, which one cannot use to see, they only give one thing. And in my immediate family, I have a family member who's partially sighted, whose one eye is lost. And he's always complaining about the eye which he can't see with. That eye gives him so much pain. He's always putting eye drops and always in pain. So the eye is there. All it does is gives you pain. So son is there. The son who does not have understanding of the Shastra, who does not follow Dharma, who is not Krishna conscious, such son is only like a dead eye, a blind eye, which exists just to give you pain. Kanena chakshusha kimva. What is the use of eyes for a blind person? Chakshuhu pideva kevalam. It is only going to give you pida. Pida means pain. So Kritadyuti, anyway, she becomes pregnant. She eats the remnants of the yajna. Kritadyuti becomes pregnant. A son is born. His name is Harshashoka. The residents are extremely happy. Citraketu was in fact very, very pleased. He engaged Brahmanas to perform Jata Karma ceremony, and he gave great donations. So Jata Karma is one of the 16 samskaras. Samskaras literally means impressions. And you might think, well, what's all this samskara? It's some kind of ancient ritualistic performances with little or no meaning to them. That's what you might think. One might think, what are these samskaras? Just some, some haughty, pompous religious ceremonies. Far from it. These samskaras are meant to be giving strong impressions in the consciousness of the person for whom and on whom these samskaras are performed. And we have examples of those, even in modern day and age. For example, in the US, it's a big thing. It's a big graduation ceremony, is a huge thing in America. It's just like a wedding almost, and not so much in the UK. But even in the UK, graduation is quite something. You dress up and you give a speech and you thank and you meet so many people, and it's a nice collegiate event. Family members come to, out of gratitude, they give you gifts, and it's a big event. It's you maturing from one stage of life into another. In our traditional scriptures, a person's life is divided into 16, at least, in some cases 24, but 16 distinct points of impression. And these points of impression is what is termed as a samskara. Now, one might think, okay, if the samskaras are nothing but impressions for a living entity, for the person, when do we start the first samskara? So we don't actually start samskaras. The first impression is not when the child is born. In fact, that is the fourth samskara. The first samskara is before the person conceives. The womb is even sort of prepared almost for conception. The consciousness of both the male and the female, the to-be father and the to-be mother, is prepared. And it's a conscious event. Like when you graduate, it's a very conscious thing. You consciously chose to go to that university. You consciously chose to do the course. You strived hard to get the graduation, to get your marks, and to get your whatever grade, passed with honors, passed class or whatever. You did your best. So everything leading up to that graduation ceremony was a conscious effort. In case of our Shastras, the way they describe it, conception is a conscious thing, not like a male dog sees a female dog, and many male dogs see a female dog. They go sniffing after her, and they mount her, and they just enjoy. And somehow, pups are produced not even knowing whose pups they are. That's truly animalistic. That is exactly not how conception is done in the Shastra. So there are 16 samskaras. Garbhadhana, conception, preparing the womb for conception. The male prepares his his heart and mind. The female prepares her consciousness. There's a, spiritual inception of spiritual purpose in inviting a soul. It's an invitation. It's an invitation, a conscious invitation. Just like if you want to invite somebody to your house, do you just stand on the street and the first person you look at, you say, "Come on in, let's have a party"? You don't do that. You will be very conscious about who you invite, and even when you invite, to what degree you invite, how long you invite for, what do you invite that person for, and where that person sits, and what do you feed him. I mean, you're going to be conscious about everything. Lo and behold, if somebody is not conscious about who they're inviting for good, well, I say good, for a better part of their life, in their life, as in inviting a child, if it's not done consciously, then it could go either way. So the first is conception. I don't want to dwell too much on these because that's not the topic, but I want to say, because the reference is made here that Citraketu did the Jata Karma. The original verse in Sanskrit says he did the Jata Karma of his son Harshashoka. Jata Karma is birth, just at birth. In fact, Jata Karma technically is done before the umbilical cord is cut, before the child is formally severed from the mum, as in separated from the mom. So that's when Jata Karma is performed. It's performed by the Brahmanas, and there's a specific procedure to it, which is not the part for today's discussion. But Garbhadan, conception, then fetus blessing. Once you have conceived, once you know that the female's conceived, you do Pumsavana, and then you do Simanto Nayana, which is for a safe delivery. So this is fetus blessing, the hair parting or safe delivery of the baby. Then at birth, then giving a name on day 12 or 13, you give the name. Then Nishkramana, the first outing after 40 days, 40. For 40 days, the child is not taken out. First outing is always to a temple for blessing. Annaprashana, feeding the first grain so weaning the child, right? Chudakarana literally means keeping a shikha. Nowadays, Chudakarana, people do a complete mundan, a complete shave of the head. Karana Veda, ear piercing on both the ears. Vidyarambha, formal education starting. Upanayana, initiation to be given by a guru. Vidyarambha, starting of Vedic studies. Keshanta, when the child becomes 19, we're talking of a boy, becomes 19 years old, he's allowed to shave. Keshanta, shaving ceremony. There's a samskar for that as well. Samavartana, when he graduates at the age of 22, generally, traditionally. Vivaha, on or before 25, according to Shastra. Of course, now people marry at all ages. There are individuals marrying at the age of, there's one person who married at the age of 104. So there's nothing to stop anyone from marrying, but we're talking of a life that's worth living. We're not talking of just a life that is lived, but a life that is worth living. So vivaha at the right time. And then if you see, after marriage, straight next is antyeshti. There is also a samskara to be done when one leaves this world. Before you enter the body, to after you leave this body, you're being looked after. So, going back to this, he did this samskaras. Rishtaraja Kumarasya, for the prince. Rishtaraja, the king who was extremely happy. Snataha, he took a bath. Suchihi, he cleaned himself. Alankritaha, he wore fresh clothes and jewelry. Vachayitva shisho vipraihi. By the Brahmanas, he asked the Brahmanas to speak Ashirvachana. Ashirvachana means words of blessing, prayers of blessing for the son. Karayamasa Jatakam. Jatakam is Jatakarma Samskar. This is the one. Jatakarma. This is mentioned. Bhagavatam, every verse is special. It's not special. It's super special. Every verse we can spend an entire month discussing. And maybe we can repeat after that, discussing for another month. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur spoke on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, first verse, for 3 months. And at the end of it, he said, we can go on. However, the audience will struggle to stay. So he moved on. So, this is Bhagavatam. And donations. Now look at after he's engaged these Brahmanas, what are the donations he gives? Tebhyo hiranyam, he gave gold. Rajatam, he gave silver. Vasamsi, beautiful clothes. Abharananicha, he gave jewelry. Graman, he awarded them villages. Hayan, horses. Gajan, elephants. Pradad, and he gave Denunam Arbudani Shat. Shat means 6. Arbudani means 10 million. Multiply by 6. 60 million Denu cows. He gave 60 million cows in donation. Just to put that in context, according to DEFRA, which is Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs in the UK, as of 1st of December 2024, which is about 5 months, 6 months back, the total number of breeding herd of cows in the UK, which is what Citraketu Maharaj donated, right? Breeding herd of cows. The total breeding herd in the UK is roughly 3.1 million. How many did he donate? 60 million. The total breeding herd in the US is less than 60 million. So you can imagine so many cows. We cannot imagine how many cows he donated. This is an expression of his happiness. And why did he donate these cows? That Bhagavatam even says that. But here's the thing. When the Romans were counting like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so on and so forth, while they were counting like that, in this system, you would perhaps not want to even attempt to count what is 100 million. In the Vedas, we have numerals that go up to 10 raised to 99. What that means in simple words is 1 followed by 99 zeros. We got a number, we got a value for that. So, Shata Sahasra Ayuta Laksha Niyuta Arbuda. Arbuda is 10 raised to 7 or 10 million. In Hindi, in Gujarati, in India, they call it 1 crore. So 10 million. So here in this verse, if you see, mathematics in Bhagavatam. Mathematics. 10 million, 6. I mean, it's amazing. So 60 million cows he donated. So why 60 million? Why not 6 million? Why not more? Why not less? There's a reason for everything. Not for this class. It's for another time, if there is another time. Let me look at the time when we're talking about time. Okay, 9:20. I think we could maybe just do this verse and I'll stop. Why did he give these donations? The next verse says beautifully, Vavarsha kamananyesham. Vavarsha. Look at the word used. Varsha. Varsha means rain. He was as if pouring. He was pouring these donations. Literally pouring. Parjanya iva, like rain. Dehinam, like rain pours on all living entities. He was just giving. Why was he giving? Dhanyam, for good fortune. Yashasam, for fame. Ayusham. Now this one you must remember. Ayusham. Ayusha means, you know Ayurveda, Veda of life. Ayu means life, long life. So for long life, fame, and for good fortune. Whose good fortune? Whose fame? And whose long life? Kumarasya, of his son, Harshashoka. For his son's long life, fame, and good fortune, Mahamanaha, the most liberal, he gave. In fact, if you read the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and if you read the section of Lord Ram, you'll see that when Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya, he also gives donation. And it's amazing, the description in Bhagavatam of what Lord Ram donates. He donates everything, including his palace, everything, except the clothes that he's wearing and Mother Sita is wearing. He donates everything. Absolutely everything. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And the Brahmanas are so overwhelmed that because he's their king, they donate everything back to him. that's how he receives everything back. So I mean, when one gives, this is the exchange. This is real giving. I mean, we give in such a miserly way. So I have to stop here for the otherwise I will be banned from coming here again, and I don't want that. So this is so beautiful. Every single section of Bhagavatam is beautiful. We have not even covered half of the chapter. No, we have covered half of the chapter. This chapter is roughly 60, how many verses are there? 60 something verses. We are on verse number 36, so we've done 50%. So not too bad.
Okay,
But thank you.
very much.
I've not been prepared, and I was put on the spot a little bit because the Dharmendra Prabhu just kind of, he wanted me to do this session. But apologies, I'm sure you'll have wonderful speakers coming on from next week to finish this chapter and to continue on the journey. And thank you so much for bearing with me, for your kind invitation for me to come and speak here. I'm really grateful, truly. Thank you. Dharmendra Prabhu, over to you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Such a wonderful class. If anyone has any, are you okay to take questions, Prabhu, at the moment?
I can do, yeah, maybe for another 4 minutes.
Okay, just a couple of questions, if that's okay. Induleka Mataji, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please can I accept my humble obeisances, O Goti Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. You said you haven't covered half, but each verse can take a whole class, and that is kind of what we should be doing. But then I hope Dhamana Prabhu invites you once more or many more times so that we can learn from you. It's very, very deep knowledge what you have shared here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your kind words. I don't have deep knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is very deep. So,
but you are studying. You have studied it, Prabhuji.
A little bit. And
let alone a verse in one word. You can give a whole class in one word from Bhagavatam.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
Okay. Shraddha Mataji, would you like to ask your question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat Pranam Shastriji, after a long time, have your darshan. Thank you. It was wonderful class. My question is, it might be just funny. I was asking what the Vatarni Nadi. Does mean we all living entities have to go through that?
Yes. Simple answer is yes. When you say all living entities, all humans.
I think living entity, I would say that living entities are just humans.
Sorry?
Living entities.
No, so I'm
all my
answering.
human, animal,
It's
birds, or anything.
humans and animals do not go to Yamaraj.
All right, okay. So,
Yes.
so just all the human, we have to go through it.
Correct.
Okay. Is it right? I heard. Does it take 1 year to go across?
Correct. That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
It takes 1 year.
Right.
Actually, it's very interesting. When the person dies,
Uh-huh.
they actually go. The Yamadutas do a fast track journey, and they pull that person and show that person to Chitragupta, just to show him and tell him, is this the right person?
Okay.
So my name is Kartick, and if there was a neighbor by the same name, and the Yamadutas got the wrong Kartick, let's say they got me instead of the other one, and if I was taken in front of Yamraj, and if I wasn't the right one, then Chitragupta would say, well, you got the wrong person. Go and put him back in his body. And that's why it's said in the Shastra that for the first 2 yamas, which means the first 6 hours, you should not cremate the body for the first 6 hours.
Okay.
One should not, because there is a possibility the person might come back to life. And in rare cases, it has happened. Even mysterious cases, I mean, even doctors who have been pronounced dead, doctors who have been pronounced dead by other doctors. And I know a doctor like that in America. He's a devotee. He was pronounced dead by his colleagues. There was nothing in the heart. The brain was seemingly dead. No pulse, absolutely. And after about half an hour, he came back to life. My own grandfather had 2 episodes of quote unquote death and then coming back to life. The first time he came back to life was after nearly 2 hours. And the people who had gathered were like super shocked. Here's a person who, now this was back in the days in the 1980s. So somebody might think, well, look, it could be the medical, I don't know, the medicine was not so advanced and maybe the doctors made a misjudgment or whatever it is. But the journey, you said, of the soul takes a year when you have to go to Yamlok after you are genuinely dead and you are genuinely the right person to be taken there. But for the first checking thing, it's only within 6 hours they check you and come back and say, all right, you're the right person, let's go. And you don't want to go and they want to pull you out. And so it's a nice, interesting thing you experience. And so all explained in various places, Padma Puran, also in Bhagavad Puran, 5th canto, but very explicitly mentioned in the Garuda Puran of what you really go through. So
actually, I was about 14, 15-year-old in India at that time. One of we used to call granddad, this our neighbors, and the same name living. They were living across the river line on the other side of the town, and this one he passed away. And when they were just about to take him to cremation, and his foot started to move, and he came back. Then he told his experience, what happened. He said, it wasn't me, Channaram, it was other Channaram from the other side in the town. And we have seen that.
Yeah.
And second thing, I had my own experience, near-death experience in 22. I completely passed out, completely gone. Just came back in the hospital.
Thank you for the question, Shraddhaji.
It took me 1 year to recover for that.
Thank you for your wonderful question.
Thank you so much.
I'll ask Geeta Gamya Mataji, followed by Jolie, and I think we'll stop there after that. Geeta Gamya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it was a wonderful, absolutely amazing class. I just wanted to ask you, because after death the devotees are taken care of by Vishnu Dutas, I heard. And do they still have to go to Yamaloka even if Vishnu Dutas take?
If they have truly remembered Krishna at the time of death and they have been claimed by Vishnu Dutas, then there is no chance that Yamadutas will come anywhere close. But the true question to ask is, like an exam. You're asking a question like, will I become a good heart surgeon? Well, the answer to your question is, if you study hard enough to pass your exam and then do the practice, yes. So when the exam comes, if you pass, yes. But just the fact that you are enrolled in a university is no guarantee for you to pass the exam if you have no endeavor. Just because I am in a university, a medical college, is no guarantees for me to pass the exam. So just the fact that we are in Krishna consciousness, there will be an opportunity for sure. I think we need to be realistic in our thinking and not be clouded by the sort of illusory thinking that the only fact that I'm going to Hare Krishna Mandir and dancing in the kirtan and doing my rounds inattentively every morning. Sometimes I miss a round here or there, and I'm almost following 3.5 regulative principles, or maybe 2.5 sometimes. And I do read once every month, but that's enough. I'll go back to Godhead, and Vishnuthas will definitely claim me. I think we might be fooling someone, and that someone is ourselves. So
Okay.
the real question is, yes, we've joined the university, and it's the right university. We've got the best of professors, the acharyas. We are in the right school, the school of bhakti, the school of Lord Chaitanya. Everything's right. Are we the right student? Are we doing our bit? And if we are, and if Vishnu Dutas do indeed come, yes, there is no scope of us going to Yamlok. No scope whatsoever.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
But
And
I think
because in one of
we
the talks,
need to take it in context, is my point.
yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. The thing is, in one of the talks, they said if you wear tulsi mala and all that, they cannot even, Yamaduts cannot even come closer to the person who's wearing tulsi beads.
That is correct, and that is mentioned in several places. But it's a condition. It's conditional, and the condition is that one is a devotee, and that condition is the fulfilling criteria. So there are, in anything you do in this world, there are fulfilling criterias, and then there are other things, right? So one cannot say I'll be eating chicken tikka masala all my life and beef burgers, but as soon as I realize I've got terminal cancer, I'm going to put on a kantimala, and I might still take my chicken burger and whatever beef burger, and I'll die, and I have the kantimala, look, so nobody can approach me. I think that is not what it means. That is not what it means. A kantimala is to be adorned only by a Vaishnava. So by mentioning kantimala, it assumes the Shastras are trying to say that it's the Vaishnavas who are untouched. In fact, it's an offense towards Tulsi. Offense towards Tulsi Devi to be worn by someone who is a Vaishnava, who is not a Vaishnava, who it's not to be taken cheaply. Tulsi Maharani is not to be taken cheaply. This process of Krishna consciousness, yes, it is a sublime process, open for everyone, but to not be taken cheaply. I think we hear many of these kind of things, like if you put Ganga Jal, you're sorted. You wear kantimala and you're sorted. You put a tulsi leaf in your mouth at the time of your last breath and you're sorted. You hear Harinam in the room at the last moment and you're sorted. You definitely will get a higher destination for sure. Would that act alone take you all the way to Golok Vrindavan? Is it that cheap? Is it that easy? Is that what we need? But then, if it was that easy, then I have a proposal to make, Geeta Gamya Mataji. I will give you £100 a month every day in your bank account. You just make sure, call me every day, make sure how I am. The day I tell you I'm not feeling good, come, just put a tulsi in my mouth and just make sure I die with a tulsi in my mouth and Ganga Jal and a nice garland, and just chant some Hare Krishna when I'm dying, and I'm sorted. And I can, I can give up everything and I can just do all kinds of nonsense. It won't work. What we are then saying is that bhakti is cheap, which means Krishna is very cheap, which is not. So although you're right, I'm not discounting what you said, not at all discounting what you said. Tulsi Maharani has that power to accelerate. Here's a nice thing, and I'll end with that. Here's a nice thing that's mentioned by okay, the Acharya's name is skipping my mind, but he says, one who wears Tulsi Mala at the time of death, Tulsi Maharani personally makes sure that the remembrance of Krishna comes to that person's mind. And it's that remembrance of Krishna which comes to the mind of that person, which then is the cause of the greater journey to Goloka. So
That's wonderful answer, Prabhuji.
So we need to see it Shastra in perspective. Anyway, I think it's been a long session. It's I'll have to. Jolie, is this a quick one?
Yes, this is Janukanya. Hare Krishna. I couldn't change.
Hey, yes.
Haribol. Prabhu, thank you for injecting some life in such a very scary subject. And I'm trying to understand, as Prabhupada said. Yeah. I think I heard you said about Mother Sunita. Dhruva Maharaj was saying that he wanted to take her with him. I was just wondering, would that be seen as a attachment, strong attachment to?
And that's Prabhupada actually writes in the purport. It's natural. Prabhupada says it's natural for the children to be attached to their parents and vice versa. And because our devotees are such wonderful Vaishnavas, and I'll end with this, he's written a letter in that Prabhupada says, and I'm quoting Prabhupada verbatim. Prabhupada says, the good fortune of the parents of my disciples, the good fortune of the parents of my disciples will be realized at their time of death. Because it's natural that they will be attached to their parents, and it's natural if they are pure, if they are purely following the process, if they go back to Godhead, or if they go to a higher destination, they would want to take their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their family, their children along. And hence, just because of their good deeds, their family will be given an opportunity to progress in spiritual life.
Yeah, I think you told a story about Gigi Baya and her husband. Yeah.
But it's still not a shortcut, because they will also be given an opportunity. So let's try and understand that correctly. They will be given an opportunity to be born in a Vaishnava family, to become a Vaishnava. The job needs to be done by them. Everyone has their own plane to fly, Prabhupada said. So we cannot say, well, Janwa, you're doing great. Good. Continue chanting. Chant some for me as well. Let me enjoy in my club. And I'll go and drink my sherry while you drink your Charnamrita. It's not it's not going to work that way, right? Even if I'm family, it won't work. So one will get an opportunity at best, but the job will have to be done. Suniti attained the opportunity to be with Dhruva in Dhruva Loka and perform bhakti. And there are mentions of Suniti performing intense bhakti after receiving that opportunity. So one has to understand the context also. Bhakti is not cheap. Bhakti is sublime. Bhakti is simple. Bhakti is refreshing. Bhakti is for everyone. Bhakti cannot be cut short. Nobody can steal away bhakti from anyone. Wherever we stop, that's where we start in our next life. So there's only and only hope. There's only and only happiness and positivity, because there is no loss in bhakti. It's the best path to be in. Okay, I'm going to end with that. Thank you very much, Dharmendra Prabhu. Thank you. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitaram bhavanebhyo
Vaishnavejo namo namaha. Antakoti Vaishnavinda ki
Srimad Bhagavatam
jai.
ki
Jai.
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 Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Lord Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.